Dale, you're a big Final Fantasy VII fan.
A huge fan, yeah.
And they're remaking it, I don't know if you'd heard.
I know, I am bloody excited.
And so there's a demo of it that has been at E3, at Gamescom, and now Tokyo Game Show. And I know you haven't had a chance to play it.
No, haven't, nope.
I have, and I'm going to show you exactly, uncut, what happens in that demo.
Okay. Right. Here we are.
Yeah, so this is what I've learnt now is actually called a Mako reactor. I've always called them Mako reactors.
What? I've always thought it was Mako, but saying that as a kid, I thought it was Sahirov.
Oh, really?
So, like, obviously you didn't have voice acting back then, and I was young and made up my own pronunciations for him.
I remember when Final Fantasy X came out and I realised that it's pronounced a chocobo instead of a chocobo, which blew my mind. But yeah, because we've got voice acting, we get Jessie.
Nice.
And it's really nice to be able to hear her talk, and she's got some, you know, like funny, like sweet dialogue, basically. But yeah, this is quite far into the Mako reactor from what you know from the original Final Fantasy. Like, you've gone past all the bit where you climb the pipes and stuff like that.
Yes.
This is, at the moment, we're on the gantry ways that would be above the save point that's just before the Scorpion boss battle.
Do you see anything of what the save points look like now? Or is it just all auto save?
I have a feeling, that save points are just dead now. Like, they're just not going to be in there, because there's definitely not one here.
Right.
And if I remember rightly, Final Fantasy 15 didn't really had sort of got rid of physical save points. We're now in an era of checkpoints and auto saves and stuff like that.
They do feel like a bit of a relic now, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, much like everything else, they've obviously modernised a lot of things.
Like the combat system.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
So you can see here, like, these enemies I don't think would necessarily have been here before.
No.
But obviously they're now in the world, which means that we get to just fling spells from across the gantry as such.
How far away do you have to be before you can interact with them? Could you throw that spell from where you were at the start?
No, I don't think so. Like, there is definitely a circle of like engagement around an enemy, and you can sort of lock onto them with R3 like you would do for like an action game like Devil May Cry, but you obviously have this pausing system where you can tap X and that'll open a menu. As long as you've built up ATB gauges, you can have 2 of those.
Yeah.
And at the moment, you can see they're just under my health bars for both Cloud and Barra. They're not full at the moment, but as you spend time and you attack or defend, they will build, and then you can use those to cast either spells or use special abilities.
So they look like they build rapidly when you're attacking as well. So encouragement to just constantly attack and build it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not one of these things where like you're going to have to wait ages between doing really cool attacks. It's like within reason you can be pulling these off every few seconds, and I really like that. It makes the pace of combat feel really, really good. Sure. And you can see sort of like Barrett and Cloud working together here, because obviously these monodrive enemies, which you might remember from the original game, they're obviously at a distance, and especially this Sentry Ray, which Cloud technically can reach because he can leap into the sky to strike, but it's a good area to show off what Barrett can do with this bullet barrage.
So I've noticed that you keep switching between the members. Is that actively encouraged? Is that the best way to play, would you say?
I would say it's definitely the best way to play. So the thing is like, there is AI, and so Barrett or Cloud, you know, depending on who you're playing as, the other person will always be controlled by the AI, and they will effectively constantly attack, and they're fairly smart, but what they don't seem to do is necessarily attack with their special abilities. I think that's very much something for the player to dictate. And that's good, because it means that it's not like when you decide, oh, Barrett's got Cure, he's got Cure materia, so I really want him to cast some Cure spell now. The last thing you want to do is, in an emergency moment, swap to that character and they've not got their ATB gauge, because they've just wasted it, you know, attacking someone with Thunder or something like that.
Do you think there might be the option to set up like scripts for the AI to follow?
Well, that would be like gambits, wouldn't it, from Final Fantasy 12? I would very much like that to be in. I have not seen that yet.
Yeah, so you could set like, so Tifa's got a cure, and when we get below 20%, then she automatically triggers it if she has an ATB full.
That is something that feels like has been in Final Fantasy games before, and I think that would very much suit this combat system.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. The one thing you can do is you don't have to directly control the characters that you want to do things. So if you're playing as Cloud and you know that Barrett has got a specific spell or ability that you want used in the battle now, if you open the menu, you can just effectively get Shroud to shout to Barrett.
Oh, okay.
Like, can you please use this? And I don't think there's necessarily the VO for it, but it is very much like you wouldn't have to swap to Barrett, then open the menu, then cast it. You just, through that menu, look at what Barrett has to bring to the fight. Talking of fights.
Yeah, it looks like it's about to kick off.
Yeah, you know what happens next.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is the famous little bit where Barrett starts to wonder what's going on in Cloud's head.
Yeah.
Because trying to get the boy to plant the bomb, obviously in the original game there was a little bit of static, and you got like an insight into the fact that maybe Cloud wasn't necessarily the person that you thought he was. Maybe there's something deeper going on in his psyche. And so we get to see a little bit of that here. So
it feels like a lot of the dialogue's been redone as well. Like, I'm not recognising a lot of this dialogue.
Well, I mean, part of that is probably almost certainly down to the fact that the original translation for Final Fantasy VII is not very good. As much as I sort of have nostalgia and love for it, all of those story beats seem to be here, but they are new dialogue, obviously with fresh voice actors. That's a wonderful thing for the modern day. And so while these characters feel familiar and they feel like the same people they were, they're speaking in much more, I hesitate to say naturalistic dialogue because it's an anime, right? So nobody speaks naturally in an anime
but
Japanese
it
thing.
Feels a little real. I suppose the performances help as well. It feels a bit more authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go.
And here we are. It is what we know as the Guard Scorpion, but it's now called the Scorpion Sentinel.
That's a weird change.
Yeah, you know, just all of these little bits that just make it feel like it is a fresh new game, despite the fact it's a remake, a reinvention of what came before. And you can, that search focus kind of light that's come on to Cloud now, that's a classic attack. Those machine guns are classic. The missiles, I feel, are very new. They weren't there before. But you can see the tail, that's a famous attack as well that we'll get to see a bit later.
Yeah, so overall it always feels like, it's very much the game that you loved. They've just, modernized a lot of things and refreshed a lot of stuff as well, just to keep it interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. And so like this, this tooltip here that's talking about staggering, like it's quite clear they've looked at other Final Fantasy games because staggering was a massive part of Final Fantasy XIII's combat system. I think this is a much better version of stagger, whereas I found in 13, like, quite often you feel like you weren't doing very impactful damage without a stagger. Stagger's more of a bonus feature in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where if you can stagger them, it means you can just wail on them and do so much more damage. And you can see like that staggered multiplier there is an incredible number, really.
Is it like critical hits, or do you still have critical hits as well?
I have not seen any critical hits happen. It feels like that's something very Final Fantasy-like, so I'd be interested to see with further gameplay if we get to see that. But in a way, yes, I suppose, like once it is staggered, you are being able to do much more critical damage, let's say. You can see here that Cloud can also block. Every character can block, or at least Barrett can block, so I assume that is indicative of everybody else. It makes more sense for Cloud to block with a sword, I feel.
I was going to say, how does Barrett block?
He just holds the gun up. I guess he's sort of hunkering down, and he's a very big, muscular dude.
He is a unit, definitely.
Yeah. But you can see here that the Scorpion has now put up like a force field around it. And for lack of a better term, it's got a butthole that is its weak spot.
Well, I mean, that's everyone's weak spot, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly one of many of mine. But basically, if you destroy the weak spot, it will, destroy the shield so you can break through. You can also see that the Scorpion can pick Cloud up.
So obviously you have to switch at that point.
Yeah, to help Barrett to get him down, but we're free, which means that, Cloud can get back in the fight.
Okay. I noticed that on the top left corner, it's a circle to evade as well. Have I seen that in action yet? I don't feel like I have.
No. So there's actually quite a lot going on in the UI, and sort of like I maybe haven't noticed quite everything that you can do. But certainly blocking and evading is much more important now than it was in the original game, because in the original game everybody lined up like good soldiers and attacked one at a time, whereas now it's much more chaotic.
So is it very much like an action game sort of gesture of ducking out of the way or diving out of the way?
Yeah, so I would not say that it's Devil May Cry style, because obviously Devil May Cry relies a lot more on combos and much more on specific timing and almost frame counting, if you're very good at it. It's not that, but there is much more of that style. I feel it's got a bit of Final Fantasy XV's combat to it, but I would not say that it is the same as that combat system. Like, it works in a different way. Final Fantasy 15 could feel a bit like you just held down the attack button.
Absolutely.
And then just layered other bits on top. This is much more engaging in the moment-to-moment fights. And then obviously the ability to open this tactical mode menu, to pause the game for a little while, to take stock of what's going on, and then choose an attack for either the character that you're using at the moment or another person in the team. It definitely is Final Fantasy VII combat in a weird way.
Yeah.
But with, sort of like over 2 decades worth of action game treatment on the top of it.
You know when you open the menu and it pauses, like just what's happened here? How long will that stay open? Is that just indefinitely?
You can keep that indefinitely open. I feel it's not actually truly pausing it. I think what it is doing is slowing it down to, massively, like even slower than bullet time.
Yeah.
So
it gives you the opportunity to like assess the situation.
Absolutely.
And also make these attacks without rolling back to what Final Fantasy VII combat used to be when everyone's just lined up. It makes more sense.
Yeah, and you can see there that kind of like I tried to use Braver on him there, which there's a limit break note there. Braver is not a limit break anymore. Braver is a normal attack. But you notice that the Scorpion was able to knock me out the way while I was mid-attack.
Yeah.
So you have to take that into consideration, everything. Here's Cloud's limit.
Oh, so it's not... Yeah, obviously it's not Braver anymore. It's now
Cross Slash is the first one that he gets. And obviously that used to be the second. But it still looks as cool. You've got the big cross in the box and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looked really cool. So what's Barrett's limit break?
It's basically Big Shot, but it's not called Big Shot.
So there's another one where they just changed the name for a laugh.
Sort of, yeah, like,
Maybe they feel like in 2019 it's a better way of describing the move.
Yeah, and like, so it's called Fire in the Hole now, which I think is almost like a better name than Big Shot anyway. But you can see now that this is where, so I'm using this opportunity to heal up as the Scorpion charges up the tail laser. Now before, obviously, you could stop it from using the tail laser, because it would be, if you attacked it while its tail was up, it would respond with a laser. Now it will just do the laser anyway, but it normally comes, well, it seems to always come after it has done something that will drop debris into the arena, so you use that to hide from the tail laser.
Cool. I like that. So the environments are a little bit more interactable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And while like it's the Scorpion that causes the debris to drop, like you use that, and it's not a cover shooter. You don't go behind and like tap X to hunker down behind it. It is just you walk behind it, but it does add a feeling of making use of the environment rather than it just being a square box.
Yeah.
So you can see sort of like Barrett's limit break is building up now. So my plan basically here is to finish it off with a limit break. So we're just going to wear him down with we can use the aero spell there, which is obviously the wind element spell. And we should probably use a bit of thunder at some point, because obviously the Scorpion is weak to lightning attacks.
Yeah. I mean, something I like about this is way more like cinematic now. It feels
absolutely
so much more of a big boss battle where it's kind of a walkover in the original.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, what did that original fight take you? Like all of 2 or 3 minutes. It was not a big boss. Whereas now it's like this multiple stage. It sort of feels like it's broken into 3 major stages. But even within those stages, it feels like there are things to sort of focus on.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I mean, like the arena is falling apart, and gradually sort of there are flames building up on the floor as those missiles strike and like leave scorch marks and stuff like that. It genuinely is. If you'd never played Final Fantasy before and this is kind of like your first introduction to big battles in it, this is a good way to go, right?
Absolutely. I just noticed a second ago on the right hand side it said you recovered HP with a Mako, was it? No? Mako crystal?
Right. So I when I was just bunkering down, I was using like the Cure spell. Okay. So I assume that it is related to that.
So, but what? Anytime you use MP, it just triggers this?
Possibly. Like I say, that there's quite a lot going on this UI, so it's one of these things that gradually you'll learn it over time.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, so you can see that we're now locked onto the individual front 2 legs, and that's because basically now the Scorpion you can see it's on fire, like all of its armor panels are dropping off. It's got self-repair functions, but they are based in the legs.
Right.
So we're attacking the legs to stop it from doing that, and now wearing it down with Barrett. Gradually getting to that point where we can use that limit break. See, it's self-repairing itself, but we're not going to let it get that far.
I wonder how many other bosses have, so it's limb-based, like, have limbs that sort of do different elements, cause different damage, and repair itself. I wonder
Yeah,
how the
I'm
indie
fascinated
does
to see how different bosses are.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely, yeah.
like what apps will be like, what Airburster will be like, you know, all of those. But you can see it's on its last legs, so I think it's time to use
nice. Here we
Fire in
go.
the Hole. Looks exactly like Big Shot,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But that explosion at the end is substantially larger.
There we go. We've done it.
And that's how to defeat the Scorpion Sentinel, and that is, as I say, that is the uncut demo from, you know, that's what I originally played at E3, it's what's available at Tokyo Game Show. And yeah, I know that you didn't originally get a chance to play it at any of the shows, Dale, but I hope you feel like you've had a good look at it now.
I feel like I played it, to be honest. Watching it, I'm very excited to try it out for myself.
Absolutely, and there we go, into the depths, and that is Claren Barrett's mission accomplished.
Nice.
For more on Final Fantasy VII, why not check out our preview of the remake, or we've got this video where we look at the episodic structure of the game.